Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Princess, SoundCloud. It's your boy Tone Till too. Chilling. What's up, Instagram, the gram? I'll be on the gram. TTO, and then don't forget to check out my album just right there. Just Google it. But I'm leaving the university. Down here getting my education on. I got mad homework to do. But staring at the screen makes me sleepy. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and this individual said something that it bothered me when they said it, and I wanted to come back at them with something real snappy, but then I just like, okay, and I just left it alone. But they basically told I said, I'm 49, and I go to school, I go to classes, and they was like, well, you don't need to be going to school. And that kind of bites, you know what I'm saying? And I was just like, why am I getting in my feelings because this individual said this? And this is the mind state of some people when you say how old you are, and they think, well, you should be successful already. You should have been finished with all your schooling. Like, why? It's more or less of you don't need to be. It's not so much you don't need to be going to school. It's why are you going to school? Like, what are you gonna do at your age? And it's just like, I still got some living to do. I ain't done yet. We're just all supposed to give up when we're almost 50 years old. That's it. That's it for everybody. Just stop right there. Hey, you're how old? You're done. Just go ahead and crawl up under a rock somewhere. That's what we're supposed to be doing. This is what you're going to tell your parents. Hey, that's it for you. Nah, my dad still makes money right now. He's 71. He's still out there getting it. As a matter of fact, he drives a school bus. Listen, my pops, when he was younger than me back then, he was in his 30s. He worked for Goodyear for 36 years. And while he was working for Goodyear's, he had two paper routes in the morning. So he would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go out and do his paper routes, two of them in his car, do his paper routes, come home, eat, rest his eyes for a few minutes, and then go and work an 8-hour shift at Goodyear. And try to do overtime there. So, this man is still ticking. This guy's been doing this he doesn't do that anymore. He's done with Goodyear, but nonetheless, he drives a school bus whenever he feels like it, and he doesn't need the money. He just does it because he wants to. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's like, I got a new house and two new cars. Like, what do I, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, when somebody says that to you, like, why are you getting re-educated? It's just like, for one, everybody knows that I'm a veteran, and the veteran, listen, for every veteran out there, I don't care how long you've been out of the service, if you don't take advantage of re-educating yourself and the money of the VOA program and of the GI Bill. I mean, there's two different programs. I have a video where I explain the two different programs. But, I mean, if you don't re-educate yourself, that's your fault. Like, you either didn't want to re-educate yourself or you didn't want to further your education. And I don't see why you wouldn't take the money because they give you a full ride. Like, when you get into the VOA program, it's a scholarship. It's a full ride scholarship. You don't pay for books. You don't pay for nothing except your cost of living. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And they pay you while you're going to school. It's like, I didn't have time to explain all this to the individual who said that to me. But, what it did was, for one, it prompted this video. And it got me to thinking, as far as generations are concerned and how we're separated by generations, it just made me wonder, I wonder what this younger generation thinks of us that are still educating ourselves. Now, when somebody is educating themselves at, 49, 50, whatever years old, doesn't mean that they're not educated. It just means that they have lived long enough through, for one, the Depression. Okay, we had a depression back when 9/11 hit, and I don't know how old some of these youngins were when when all that happened, but nonetheless, when 9/11 hit, it crushed our economic system. Okay, and not only that, if you go back even further, you know, some of our main resources in our for our jobs have all changed. Like the steel mills used to be the big thing in the 70s and the 80s. The car factories, huge, big thing. Those are no longer jobs that you can go to and make your $30 an hour. So what do? You don't just sit down and say, "Oh, I can't do nothing." There are scholarships out there for individuals who want to re-educate themselves. It's not just a veterans program. Like, because our government realized what happened to us. And they realize if we don't get our people re-educated and back into the working system, that a lot of us are going to fall on welfare. Welfare, Medicaid, Medicare, all that comes through the government. That drives up the prices of our health care. Um, Even if you're on Obamacare, listen, not everybody can afford Obamacare. Listen, there is still a large population of homeless people of all nationalities. So our government realized all this was happening. Listen, when the housing market collapsed, I forgot what year that was. I think that was back in 08, 09. When the housing market collapsed, I know some people who literally lost everything. When I say everything, I mean this dude was living with me. He called me up and was like, "I have nowhere else to go." In a year before that, he was having mega parties at his house. Beautiful house. Flat out, he's done. He was done. What does this person do? They had to re-educate themselves. He had to get out of the housing market. Now he works for an insurance company or whatever. Not to mention, uh, uh, when it comes to fluctuating, going back to uh, uh, what what America did as major commerce. Now most of our commerce is in customer service. And you'll find a lot of times when you hear somebody in customer service, you'll find out that that person is in India. And you're like, why is that the way it is? Because one, we had to get into more customer service positions because, like I said, the steel mills, the car factories, everything we depended on before, all that is gone. Those high paying jobs are gone. We had to switch over into another type of commerce in order to keep us up. And then you get into GDP, gross domestic product, and all this other stuff. But nonetheless, we had to stay competitive. So we had to get into an information society. Listen, even nerds, even computer nerds who have master's degree and doctor's degree in computer science and all that. You know what? That computer bubble fell off. When the internet bubble fell off, that was it for them. That was it. Listen, they were applying for jobs that somebody in high school was applying for. Some 18, 19-year-old who just got out of high school was applying for the same job some 45-year-old with a doctorate's degree was applying for. And it's true because it was paying, what, 15, 16 bucks an hour. And this guy was making 60 bucks an hour. He was living high on a hog. Once that era stopped, his money ran out. And when you make a certain amount of money, you live in that lifestyle. Well, you can no longer live in a $300,000 house and drive a Porsche, and then your wife has got a brand new Cadillac, and you're making payments on all that. That's not. It's not feasible anymore. You got to downsize. You got to take the fam, move into an apartment, sell the house, so on and so forth. And you got to go out there and beat the pavement. But when you're up against somebody who is 20 years, younger than you, they're looking at you and you're looking across from them, and you're both thinking the same thing. We know who's going to get this job. Why? Because a 45-year-old, it costs more to insure that person. This is why you have this situation with Cobra and how Cobra is so expensive. And you got, private insurance, and a lot of companies, and I'm going to answer some questions. A lot of companies don't want to hire these people who are older. And then also on your application, they try to figure out what health issues you got because their insurance is going to go up. Therefore, a knee-jerk reaction to all that is hire somebody overseas. This is why you have a lot of customer service in India, because they don't have to pay for their insurance. Now, I don't talk to this individual who said this to me any longer, and I know they're not going to see this video. But nonetheless, it did make me think about what the transactions and what has been happening to America, and with the crashing of the banks, with the depression, and where we are today, and how healthcare. You guys know I study healthcare, and how healthcare is affecting everybody, and how it has actually pushed some jobs out of the country, but nonetheless, it's creating jobs too. There's to every action, there's another reaction to it. So now our economy is coming back online. We're prospering, but nonetheless, we still got a big issue with Medicare being $1 trillion problem for us. You know, Another reaction to a lot of people being out of work and then going on Obamacare, they're figuring out ways how to beat the system, which is healthcare fraud. And that's the area I'm really interested in. So healthcare fraud doesn't only cost the government, it costs all of us. Rising of healthcare prices. People don't want to hire you because they figure out that you have sickle cell in your family. People don't want to hire you because they figure out that you're a smoker. People figure out that there's heart disease in your family. And you're like, well, they can't do that. That's discrimination. But yes, they can do that because they find out this information in surveys. They find out this information when you start calling them and say, this is for, this phone call is going to be recorded for quality purposes. What do you think those quality purposes are? They listen to everything you say, and this is how they deem whether they want to deal with you on one type of level or not. So, like I said, I don't talk to this individual anymore, but I doubt if I could have had this conversation with them anyway. I don't think they would have had the patience to listen to it. But as far as these millennials, these younger generations that are coming up, even people in their 30s, uh, if I could have a conversation with them about this, I would tell them to look at our history. And you'll figure out why your mom and dad is going back to school. And there's millions and millions and millions of dollars for us to go back to school. There's grants upon grants upon grants saying go back to school, because America recognizes if we don't go back to school, if we don't educate as many people as we can, we're going to fall by the wayside. And you don't want that problem. And this is one reason why I've decided to re-educate myself. Another reason, when you look at some professions, is look at nursing. They're phasing out LPNs, so all the LPNs have to be an RN. What do you have to do? You have to re-educate yourself. And this is happening all over the country in different professions. It's your boy Toten 202. Peace.